So, hello all. Thank you for joining the Human Libraries of Procurement podcast. We call this Human Libraries of Procurement for three basic elements: the human connect, the libraries part, which shows knowledge and wisdom, and procurement because we talk about procurement. We have one such human libraries today with us, Abhijit Majumdar, who is from the bids and proposal management team. Abhijit, sir, thank you so much for doing this. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me here. I'm doing good.
We'll start with your career journey and then we'll take it
So,
from
yeah,
there.
career journey, if I have to talk about 35 years in the industry, from the technology background, first 15 years in the technology side, and out of which actually 7 years were on the other side. Means where I was not directly on the procurement, but I was evaluating solutions as a part of the technical team, large public sector. So I do understand what goes on the other side also. And when I joined the industry, it was not on the bid and proposal management, it was pure technology side. Worked with global companies from HCL Tech to Mastech and Zensar. 2000, I switched not directly into bid and proposal management, but actually I was into solution architecting. Gave me a direct contact with the sales teams and with the sales team to the client teams, and through the client teams, of course, with the procurement teams. And we were working. I was working mostly for the U.S. state and local government. Okay, so yeah, that was the first exposure to. We were talking about more about the compliances. We were talking more about the credibility. We are talking more about the relationship. So those are the things we started, and subsequently handed over the entire business acquisition role for government business. And from that, actually, bid and proposal came as a part of portfolio to me. Okay,
Right.
other than my solution with the bid and proposal started, and then after that, the journey was quite interesting. I was heading both the public sector business and for government. Shifted to Mastech again, where I was heading the government and public sector business, and then again through Zensar. But Zensar, I was handling the entire global sales enablement. That was my last stint in the corporate post my volunteer retirement, because I had a principle in my life that I will not work after 50, at least for a
Wow.
corporate. For
Nice.
something. Okay. So, and I was able to, thanks to my stars around me, I was able to keep that promise. And a lot of those realizations, because I was a part of the solutioning group, as I was heading the solutioning, I had a remarkable strike rate, what we call, or read rate, in terms of shortlisting of RFPs. Okay, so
Right.
my RFPs were like I had a strike rate of around 92% of my
Wow.
RFPs getting shortlisted. Okay,
Right.
and whenever you are getting shortlisted and you reach the finals, you have to make the presentations. So you have to go through the orals and make the presentations, and that's exactly the first time when you come in contact with not only the evaluators, but actually the real business users, the business owners or the sponsors. That was evident with my win rates also. Like I had a conversion rate of around 70% plus. Okay,
Wow. Nice.
so even when you are standing there and making your presentation, you are watching the people there who are looking at your solution and things. You could feel that there is still a gap. There is still a doubt in their mind. They
Hmm.
still have something which they want to ask or they want to see, but they are not able to. Either they are assuming, and it happens like either they are assuming that maybe I am not able to understand what he's saying, or I am
Right.
not able to identify what he's saying. So should I ask this question? Should I ask it? That no, all the chords are not in harmony.
Yes.
That was something which always stayed with me, that how do you reduce this thing also post award in the delivery during the execution. And that gap, that became a crater, which was a gap in your proposal, actually becomes a crater in your during
Right.
your delivery. What I start with a 40% or 50% margin comes down to 12% margin when I close it. I always had that question in my mind: is the customer really concerned about how many pages of executive summary I am writing? Because to me, the proposal was only a means of communication. It
Right.
was only a means of communication of the value to the buyer and convince him or her about the value that the business wants to recognize out of that value creation process. Both the value creation and the value capture, both the
Right.
side, to bring them into an equilibrium. And that's exactly where my association with APMP, which is a global association of bid and proposal management, started. Although I was a part of that association for quite a long time, that was the only industry association available or representing this particular professional community.
So, lots of good experience, Abhijit sir. Well done. And thank you for sharing. I have your introduction here. I'll just read it out. So, Abhijit Majumdar is the director for APMP India, India's only industry body representing the Pursuit community through a value-driven pursuit management framework. He brings extensive leadership experience from global IT services industry and is widely recognized for shaping modern practices in competitive bidding and proposal management. A technology evangelist and AI expert, he is known for driving practical innovation that improve pursuit effectiveness and decision quality. Abhijit holds 10 plus professional certification in technology and management domain. He's a prolific reader as well as an engaging speaker and teacher who translates complex ideas into actionable insights. So that's the intro that I got. So
Whatever everybody gave became a standard. Okay, then people thought that, oh, his standard is different from other standard, and I have to, like, it was that apple and orange and mango and other things, everything. So
right.
they said, no, let us bring into some level. So some people took the advantage. Okay, no, we will give you the standard that all everything will look like an apple. Okay,
Yeah.
so the best practices and the body of knowledge and all these are for those who are starting in or getting into the industry, and they need to know that these are the principles I need to follow.
Yeah.
Okay, these are the basics I need to follow. To drive your growth, you need something beyond that. Okay,
Right.
and that was something which was always in my mind. Typically, the bid and proposal management, if I have to say that, they are measured by their operational excellence.
Right.
How many proposals did you submit? How many proposals were submitted in time? How many proposals got shortlisted? How many proposals win? So those are more of operational excellence. Okay,
Yes.
take you only to a level.
Right.
Beyond that, it has to be strategic. It has to be innovative,
Yeah.
because that will separate, that will differentiate in that crowded market. And the market is becoming crowded. Either you go out and change the game, change the rules of the game, disrupt the industry, or you create a value which maybe even the buyer has not even been able to recognize. And the
Right.
value is not a feature or a solution.
Yeah.
It can be a delivery value, it can be a technology value, it can be a pricing, cost value, whatever. So keep value as the core.
Right.
Is it creating value for the customer? Is it creating value for my company? And everything else around that. So that's exactly where we started with APMP India's entire journey of reinventing this entire thing. And today we are in a position where we are coming out with our frameworks. So you have to think of what are the innovative practices. Okay, what are the things we can do? Think in terms of innovation, and that will come only through a thinking and only through a culture. When that thinking becomes a practice, and that practice becomes a part of the organizational culture, then you see the change. Then you see the impact, and then you see the change. So that's exactly what we are doing today, and I think we are doing good because the response what we are seeing. So you can say we were ahead of the curve, that when people started thinking beyond, we had actually we had also already been into there. We brought in design thinking into how we can bring in design thinking different, and we tried to, and it is not that we invented anything. No, we didn't invent anything, but yes, we did innovate, because we created a new value. We created a new value stream. And that is reflecting. That is reflecting.
For procurement, we
Mhm.
deal a lot with sales team. And for
Mhm.
us, we understand that whenever we need a quote, we tell the sales team and they get us a quote.
If you are talking about only receiving a quote, that means a commodity which is available out in the market, whoever offers it at the best price.
Right.
Is that what you mean by a quote?
No, I'm talking about more of a proposal. Let's say I have some work. I would approach the sales guy that, okay, I have some work. Can you help me with this project?
Okay, yeah. So exactly. So you request for a proposal. Okay, that's
Right,
why the RFP. Okay,
right,
and you request for a proposal in three situations. One, there is a pain which
right.
needs to be resolved.
Yes.
Second, there's a gain, a aspiration to gain something more, do
Mm-hmm.
something better. The second thing.
Yeah.
And the third is a job. There's something which is not your core, and you don't want to focus on it, so you want to give it out to somebody who specializes in that, who can do it more efficiently at a lower cost, in a different location and a geography, all the parameters. So if you see any sort of a procurement happening through a RFP, is actually happening through these three. It can be categorized in these three areas:
Right.
pain, gain, job,
Yeah.
and many times they can be clubbed together also. But there will be
Mhm.
some pain elements, some gain elements, and some job elements in that procurement.
Okay.
Likewise, there are three categories of customers.
Sure.
One category of a customer is somebody who has a pain or a gain or a job or a combination of all, but does not know what to do about
Yes.
it.
Mhm.
That's one category of customer. The second category of customer is he knows what is the pain, what is the gain, or what's the job he has, and he also knows what will solve that.
Right.
But he does not have the expertise or the resources to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. The third category of customer is that who knows what his pain is, what his job is, what it is, who also knows what needs to be done to solve that problem or to achieve that gain or the aspiration, or first does not have the resources, second does not want to, and it's a short time thing, one time thing for him, and once it is done, then the resources are not needed, and no longer support would be needed also. It is just a one time job to be done. Okay,
Right.
so they do not require it for a long time. They do not they know what they need to be done. They only need the specific resources for a specific period of time. Now, based on all this, if you see these three things, you see the three types of prevalent types of contract which comes out.
Right.
Okay. The first one basically is a sort of a consulting engagement contract, which starts with a consulting engagement and then goes downstream to maybe a fixed bid or a time and material or something like that.
Right.
The second type of customer, the second type of engagement with a customer is always turns out to be a fixed bid because they know the solution, they know what it has to be. It turns
Right.
out to be a fixed bid solution. And the third type is a pure play T&M.
Right. Time and
Okay,
material. Yes.
time and material. Give me the resource. So this has been the prevalent model in which the business or the out or at time when I'm talking typically of the outsourcing industry. What has been procurement's model? Procurement also has been more
Right. Same.
actually
Yeah.
on the same ground, like, okay, what type of contract do we need to have for this type of thing? You also ask that, okay, do we need to have do we need to commit so much to do something and then see whether it works for us or not? If it works, then maybe we can go to other vendors and find out whether they do. So that's how procurement also has been working.
Right.
But then over the last one decade, some organizations or some buyers wanted to change the rules of the game,
Yeah.
and they started with a different model, and this starts with the consulting company because they come out also with all those great ideas, innovative ideas, and others follow. Even if I am a consulting company, however resources I may not be knowing each and every part of the business of every industry.
Right. Yes.
I know about your industry or whatever are the processes I followed at a high level, but I do not know your business. Or even if I know the larger process of business, I do not know really where it pains you.
Right.
It is
There
difficult.
is still a gap. Yes.
There's still a gap.
Yeah.
So you try to fulfill that gap and that's why if you see the time and all the fixed bid projects, if you see, they will all start with requirements gathering,
Right.
requirements analysis, the typical waterfall model.
Yeah.
But that in last 1.5 decade, that has changed. Now, even after a due diligence, you start with a requirements gathering, requirements analysis, requirements validation. 40% of your effort, when you reach to the UAT, you will see that only you have achieved 40% or 50% or 60% of what the project goal was. Why is this variation? This variation is not because things have changed between the project conception and the project delivery. It is because the communication didn't happen. You didn't talk to the right people.
Right.
You didn't talk to the. You had only a view. You had only the procurement's view of the problem.
Right.
Okay. You did not have the business view of the problem.
Yeah.
You didn't have the ROI, the CEO or the CEO is looking to present to the board.
Right.
So what happened, what is happening or what was happening was that between the promise and the delivery, even after winning the contract, the promise and the delivery, there was a big gap. The procurement is the front ending, right?
Yes.
On the business side. And procurement says that after we come out of the RFP, out in the RFP, you're not going to talk to anyone in the company.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So in one way, it is like I am going to a doctor and I am telling that, okay, I have come to you because I have a problem, but I'm not going to tell you my problem. You have
Right.
to guess what is my problem.
Yeah, because too much
Yeah.
information is told that you cannot disclose too much of information.
So, but if you have to, can you go to a doctor and tell that, okay, you solve my problem, my health problem, but I will
Right.
not tell you what is my problem. What is my
Okay.
problem?
Right.
Okay. And I will not answer your questions also. And I will give you an answer in a generic way.
Yeah.
And then then you anticipate the doctor to solve your problem.
Yeah. Yes. That is a problem. Yes.
So procurement, I think, but I think that it is changing. I keep talking to a lot of procurement professionals, very senior professionals in the procurement. They also have the same problem,
Yeah.
the same operational standard operating system policies.
Right.
Oh, you have to
SOP.
follow
Yes.
this, the SOP. Do
Mhm.
you have to go? I have seen RFPs coming out with such clauses which don't even seem to be relevant
Right.
in that situation, but they are there.
Yeah.
Why? No, it is a part of a standard procurement template.
Right. You touched on that part where you have some pain points with procurement. And again, I'm not trying to defend it, but we are trying to find the other point of view as well. So tell us more about what has been your experience with procurement. And of course, the pain point is always there. But I think what has come out in the previous discussion also is that things are changing. So what is
Yeah.
your experience? What are the pain points and how do you see the future?
See, I will tell you one thing also, Supradeep. It's not the problem only with the procurement.
Right.
It's a problem with the sales and the bid and proposal management also, the solution.
Yeah.
Because we always try to say that procurement is always focused on the price. Whoever gives them the lowest price, they will go with it. Okay.
Right.
Of course, cost efficiency is a factor. Who doesn't want to save money? Yeah.
Yes.
Would you go out and throw? But then would you risk it?
Right.
And typically in the services industry, it is more of a problem. Is that it is very difficult to differentiate yourself because we know that okay, if the customer has come out with the RFP and asked us all these five things to be delivered and these five criteria to be fulfilled, every or most of them will be having that.
Yes.
Now, the same thing, same time and material, same type of resources, same qualification of the resources, same qualities, same experience. Now, how will you differentiate here?
Right.
Cost. You can't blame the because ultimately everybody is giving them. They have asked for oranges and you are giving them some shape of some form or some orange. The only thing is that okay, which one is cheaper
Right.
and meets the quality standards.
Yeah.
Okay, technically accepted lowest bid. Okay, that's the only criteria you have. Then you can't blame the procurement for that
Right.
because you have not been able to differentiate yourself. You
Right.
have not been able to innovate and present something or communicate something which where I have changed the game. See, when it comes to strategy, there is like one of the competitive strategy rules is that where you cannot win the game, change the rules of the game.
Right. Yes.
I can tell you of a deal or some deals where which I have led a deal where we have changed the game.
Yeah.
We told the customer that what are you doing? Why don't you do this?
Right.
And doing this is actually going to, you can see the X times. You're talking about saving X. I'm going to make you earn X to the power of X.
Right.
I can give you this also. Think of this. And that changed the game for them.
Right.
They were looking for a solution. They came out and said that, okay, boss, why don't we co-create? Why don't we become partners in the business?
Right.
You become our technology partner and solve this problem for us. And not only solve the problem, let us do the business. We will get you the domain knowledge. You create the platform. We will do the business.
Partnership.
Yeah,
Yeah.
co-creation,
Right.
partnership. I
Yeah.
changed that. For us, it was a double gain. We didn't have any IP in that business domain. We created
Right.
a new IP. It became we were going looking at a fixed bid contract for maybe 2 years. That would have ended in 2 years, and then 30% of the revenue coming as the support and maintenance revenue. How you can change the game, but then you have to bring in something disruptive. You have to convince them. You have to
Right.
show them that value.
Yeah.
Okay, if I would have been sitting and reading that RFP and trying to find out what are the compliances, what are the proposals, answers, I could not have ever thought of it.
Yes.
I could do some research in that market. I could talk to some subject matter expert, domain experts in that market, and said that, okay, why if they are doing this, and I'm not talking about an Indian client, I'm talking about a US client known in its, and when they did that, everybody else in that league followed them, and everybody came to us.
Right. So I have a similar kind of example. I was procuring for a pharma company at that point of time, and we are talking about 2010, 2011. We were just buying stuff, IT and marketing stuff. And one of the vendor actually created a game for a cell phone, mobile, where the pill goes there and it kills all the germs. So it was that game. And that game became so popular that, we had to have a patent of that IP and all that. And we created, like we did a partnership of that sort. So I think these are good examples. These are what, we should aim for rather than only cost.
This was possible only because the procurement helped us to lead to the see this type of decisions are not going to be taken by the procurement that no, we will not go
Right,
with RFP, we will go for a single sole sourcing.
right,
This will be done by the sponsor or somebody at a very high level at a, that okay, forget if, and typically when a RFP is out
yeah,
and you already have one of the bigger, much bigger player as an incumbent vendor.
right,
Now there, that's why, because we could convince the procurement, we could say that hey, look, this your company is trying to save X dollars. We are going to tell you you can how you can make X into the X to the power of X dollars.
right, yeah,
And then they said that okay, I don't know much of this, but I am going to give you. I'm going to set up a call with your with our stakeholders, and it was that one call with the right stakeholders That changed the game.
Right.
That changed the game for the customer, that changed the game for the vendor. If I say that no, procurement didn't allow me to do that, possibly it would not have happened. Typically, is that everybody starts looking at a value creation.
Yes.
What value, if you think of what value as a procurement person, you are, instead of looking at what value am I creating for my company to keep my bosses happy, if you
Right.
start procurement, start thinking that what value can I create for this vendor,
Right.
and when the vendor thinks that what value can I create for the customer so that it makes them successful, it makes them think. So I think for you, you think for me.
Right. Yes.
Rather, I looking at my back and thinking of how much margin I will get to my company, and you looking at your bosses and saying how much cost I'm going to save.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, what happens is that I am focused on my me, you are focused on me, you.
Right. And I think what is very interesting is that we always keep talking about oranges and apples, right? And I read it somewhere. There are like 7,000 or more varieties of apples actually, but they are not
Yeah.
not considered as distinct varieties. So again, those comparisons are not right. Apples can be different. So it is not never apple to apple. It's a one variety of apple
But
with
that
another.
apple has to tell its story, na?
Yes. So that story is important, and I think we're getting there. That is I think the biggest takeaway. I think touched on the cost models. I'll just give a context for anybody who doesn't know. So time and material and fixed fee are two major ones. One of the examples that I was told, if you are buying a table, it is more like a fixed fee. And if you are buying the wood and the labor cost to make the table every day, that guy will come in and make the table for you. That is more like a time and material. How do you see this? How do you make a
And proposal. First thing is that this is not the role of a bid manager or a proposal manager. This is because typically this is a role of a pricing analyst. Okay.
right?
As a bid manager or as a proposal manager, the first thing I need to know, and that is again where, is what is the client's budget? Is their affordability? Are they, because at the very beginning, everybody would say, no, money doesn't matter. Okay, the
Yeah.
cost is not a factor. But ultimately, it comes down to the cost. Okay. But there has to be every customer, unless until they are going on fishing, they would have a guideline with them that buy it within an approved budget. Okay. But rarely that approved budget is shared.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, people use that as a leverage for negotiation.
Yes.
Okay. It does not mean that the vendor does not know what is your budget. Okay. There are
Right.
different ways of doing it. Okay. And in fact, you must be knowing that there's something called price to win.
Right.
Okay. So what is the price to win? And it's a proven approach. Okay. It is not a very deterministic approach that, but if you do the right things, your approximation would come. And there is a
Mhm.
very simple equation. There is a very simple equation. Price has to be always be less than customer's budget. At the same time, the the perceived value of the service or the product should always be more than the price.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. He should be a winner.
So, so
Right.
there is a perceived value
Yeah.
of the customer, which is basically the story you are selling.
Yes.
Okay. That has to be always bigger than the price, and the price has to be always lesser than the budget. Okay.
Right.
And the price also has to be bigger than the cost.
Right.
So if you put all these equations together, you will ask, so your customer will not tell me the budget they have, but they will give me out somewhere or the other, they will be giving me a perceived budget, a perceived value.
Hmm.
Now,
Yes.
if you know how to translate that perceived value into a dollar,
Right.
they will know that, okay, to get this value, what is the extent of investment I will go for?
Right.
and the behavioral attribute and the organization can be looked from two ways, or can be judged from two ways: how it treats its vendors,
Yeah.
and what are their payment cycles. You get to know their attributes. Okay, if a vendor is smart, he will look into five or I would look into 3 or 4 of the past RFPs. I will go, even if we have not received that RFP, I will go out and search if there is a past RFP available with somebody else, and in the network somebody will, who are their past vendors who have served them, and you will get to know about it.
Right.
And then you will know, okay, what is the procurement strategy going to be here? How much are they going to push in you in negotiation?
Yeah.
You will, what you will do, you will always bake that in your margins.
Right.
Because
Yes.
I know that when I go to the table, I will think that. Do you think any vendor works out of a loss? No one.
Right.
Somewhere or the other, if that business is growing, somewhere or the other, they are making it out. But the problem is, it could have been better for
Yeah.
both the
Right.
buyer as well as for the seller. Okay.
Yeah. And that also is so true that when we were starting off, we were always told that there is a buyer reputation that you will also always have to save, right? So even if you lose money on negotiation or anything, you have to protect your buyer's reputation. The market cannot know that this buyer is, something wrong with him or something like that. But I think in the due course of time or whatever, we have lost that thinking somewhere. And even the seller's reputation for that matter. There
Yeah,
is a
whenever you are shifting from your core,
right.
your value dilutes, your
Yes.
brand dilutes. I think procurement has to first define what is the value it is creating for the within their organization and for their partners. You have
Yeah.
to look at the vendor as your partner,
Yeah.
and a partnership happens only when you have a trust and you create value for each other.
Right. Yes.
And this is where only when the respect comes in.
Right.
Okay, I respect my vendors, I respect my vendors respect me.
Right.
It's mutual, or else it is a power play. Are you
Right.
playing the power game or you are playing the relationship game?
Right. Yes. That is very important. Yes. The relationship game has to be there.
Or else it is a transaction,
Right.
right? But it is shifting. That is shifting. People have realized it. People, unless so you will do that only when it is a commodity. But
Right.
when things are at stake, you will not risk it.
Yes.
So for the vendors also it is the same. That if this is something which is niche, I know what it is, where it is to be. If it is a commodity, it doesn't matter whether I get it or not. Fine, I am
Right.
going to stick to my margins,
Right.
because if not this customer, I will have another customer.
Now, when we are starting off, you gave me one or two examples. One of the example was the changing of the game itself. You also told me that your conversion rates were very high. Any other success stories that you would like to
I
share as
changed
a
the internal culture within the organization, saying to my delivery, because even as a bid management team, I am have to go to the delivery. I have to go to the engineering for the solution. I have to go to the delivery for the resources. I have to go to the pricing and the legal to see that everything puts in order.
Mhm.
That I said that, "Ki, boss, look, you have to sell me.
Right,
How do you expect me to go and sell it to my customer, or to my sales guy, or to the sales guy to go and sell it to the customer?"
right,
So
yes,
I became the customer's advocate within the organization.
yes. What can be said about procurement as well? We are the opposite side of that. We also fight it out with, other departments to sell what the supplier is
Right,
giving.
yeah, right. I know, when you become the customer's advocate within your
Right.
organization, you can actually feel the why has the customer even asked for that question in the RFP?
Yes, that is the dream situation you can be in.
Is
Yes.
what led that, and actually when you go through that, when you read RFPs in that sense, I mean, I was dealing with what, 60, 70, 80, 100 RFPs in a month,
Wow.
six different geographies. Okay,
Right.
does it mean that I was reading all the 60 RFPs or 100 RFPs? No.
Yeah.
But there was a bid manager or proposal manager who was supposed to do that. I was only asking questions, and maybe I was really pointing to some executive. Look at there. What have they said there? Look at the contract. What have they said there? Look at. If you don't need to read the RFP, you need to read them between the lines of the RFP,
Yes.
and you look at the patterns of the RFP of the same customer of the same procurement. You will get to know the psyche of the customer,
Right.
and you know, okay, how to tune yourself to that. See, and there is another very interesting thing here, is that there are different types of questions, right? There can be, you can categorize the questions in different categories,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But is there any category of answers?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is only one category of answer that you have to answer the question.
Yes.
But it's actually not that. If you take a step back and look at the question and ask, like, why is this question? Then you can think of an answer which actually answers the real question.
Right. Yes.
The real question is that not the question in the RFP. The real question is, why is the question in the RFP?
Right.
But in our speed to complete and do things, we only, oh, they have asked for this, so we give this.
Yeah.
You have not gone to ask, like, why has he asked this?
Right.
And what is he going to do with it? What decisions is he going to do? A proposal is to drive somebody to a decision. What are you doing to take him to that decision?
Right.
How are you facilitating that?
I had a question on this similar
Mm.
kind of thing. The
Mm.
question was that do we lose it in the scope of work specifications, or do we lose it in the questions of RFP? Like where does the gap
Like,
start?
yeah, I will tell you. See, the scope of work is basically a solution, a hypothetical solution you're looking for.
Right. Yes.
But that hypothetical solution, the need for that hypothetical solution is a issue, is a
Right.
problem.
Right.
Your scope of work is actually a hypothesis.
Right. Yes.
That based on these issues, I have come out with this hypothesis. Can you validate my hypothesis, and my hypothesis is going to hold true with your solution?
Right.
So basically, when I'm giving you a solution, I'm giving you a hypothetical solution.
Right. Yes.
If you want a more realistic solution, you have to give me the issue and the problem.
Right.
So that transparency is the bigger problem.
Yeah.
Problem for both, for
Right.
the vendor as well as for the buyer.
Yeah.
Because for the vendor, it becomes a risk. For the buyer, the vendor cannot deliver. The buyer, how did you select this vendor? You're also at
Right.
risk.
Right.
60% of the delivery risks are stored in the proposal. Let me give you that statement.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And that is because of that ambiguity,
Right.
because of
Yes.
that lack of transparency.
Right.
If you can build that transparency, if you do not write your RFP sitting in the isolation or getting one consultant and doing that RFP, rather you get all the 10 vendors
Yeah.
together. And actually,
In
that is happening today.
Right.
That's happening in a lot of cases. That is happening. All those whom you think are the right guys to give you the right solution, bring them together.
Yes.
Do a solutioning workshop. Do a sort of a design thinking workshop. Do a sort of a co-creation workshop.
Like what you said before, right? If you change the game, that also gives you a lot of solutions.
Yes.
Like there was a quote from Henry Ford, where he
Mm.
said, "If I asked my customer what do they want, they would have said, I wanted
Faster
faster
horses.
horses." Yes, but the problem is not faster horses. So you need faster cars. That is another place where we want to be, right? And that, as you said, the changes are happening, which is for good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So procurement has a timeline. We typically give 2 weeks time for an RFP to be answered. And there are at least 70, 80 questions to be answered. How much time does it take for, somebody to,
So say again, I said, how specific do you want to be? How
right.
personalized do you want to be? If
Yeah.
you want to have a generic answers, and if that is a if it is a RFP related to a product or a service which is in my sweet spot, which I'm doing day in and day out,
Mhm.
2 days,
2 days.
because I have done it so many times. So I will
Yeah.
only take an. But if you want me to think about why have you asked that question, how can I differentiate, how can I, then maybe 15 days is also short
Yes.
for 70 questions.
Right.
So it totally depends on what is the depth you want to be and how much transparency. If you can come out and say that I am asking you this because this is my problem which I want to solve, rather than asking like, okay, how many times have you been blacklisted with a similar customer, and then I want to know your credibility, boss.
Right.
I want to know your background. I want to know your credibility. And I will be, even if I have, how many times have you not been able to finish your contract or execute your contract, or how your contract has been terminated? Fine.
Right.
Nobody will be upfront and telling you that 5 times my contract has been. So you ask, you don't want to be clear. I don't want to be clear. You
Right.
want to confuse me, I will confuse you.
Right. Yes.
So
And
there's a very popular saying in, if you can't
yeah.
confide in the customer, confuse him.
Right. And many a times it happens that you can actually make out the other guy is actually there to confuse, just to buy the time. And that also happens. One of the discussions that I had with one of the procurement guy, he
Hmm.
told me an RFP actually takes 3 months for procurement to actually finish it off, the entire thing. I'm just
Yeah,
telling
if
you,
they are, obviously it will take 3 months,
right,
because if you also need to understand what is the value your customer, your end user is business user is looking for,
right, yes,
and does even the business user know what exactly they are looking for?
yes, that's what,
Because if they knew their problem,
right,
they would have solved the problem. Why out are you going out and asking for it?
right. Now there are some funny questions that always come up in RFPs, right? Like what you said, which was the last time that you failed in an RFP and what was your experience or something like that. Do you remember any of those kind of questions in your
Yeah,
mind?
I lots African government's procurement.
Right.
They said that all the proposals have to be submitted in iPads,
Right, yes.
and there were 3 volumes of
Mhm.
the every submission, and all 3 submissions will be on separate iPads. So every company has to submit three iPads, and those iPads are not returnable.
Right, right. Okay. So
Right.
that's one kind of taking gifts. Yeah,
Okay,
right. Fancy.
you want the iPad, you want the proposal.
Right, yes. I think they wanted the iPad.
so
Yeah,
that is one thing which I will never forget. And then this was for a RFP perimeter security of DMZ, of their data center. Okay,
right,
these are very compliance centric RFPs, and very lot of compliance centric things like that. And in that, the question was, what was the shortest tenure of a customer within your organization?
right, yes. Right,
Means,
right,
or you lost the customer in 6 months or 1 year.
right,
Security is one area where, when you select a vendor, you stay with the vendor for as long as best possible for both for you as well as for the vendor.
right, yes.
Because as a vendor, I know a lot of your weaknesses, and you also know a lot of my weaknesses. The ideal question should be, tell me how many customers have you retained for last 5 years or 10 years,
Yeah, in a positive way.
in a positive way, rather
Okay.
than asking like what has been the shortest duration of a customer in here. I
Right,
could not ever figure out like what was why even that question was asked.
right.
So every RFP will have some sort of those questions, but it is not necessarily. Sometimes it may look like this question is not relevant over here, but if you step back and think from a customer side, possibly you will find some relevance there. And
Yes.
sometimes it is just a copy paste thing.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Because this is the template they have been following.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So whether it's a product, whether it's a product procurement, commodity procurement, services procurement, they will have this standard clause. Nobody
Right.
has challenged them on this. So they believe that this is the Bible. You have to follow
Right.
this Bible.
And to change those questions is like a lot of steps for
Yeah,
procurement as well.
lot of you have to go for your
Yeah.
own approvals and all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
People try
that's
to avoid it.
yeah.
So,
And anyway, I'm not going to answer it. If there's a vendor who it's the vendor's problem to answer it.
right. Yeah. Because I asked one question, like it was in the template. When was the last time that you failed in a project? Or, if you have ever had a loss in your project, and how much was the loss and all that?
No, that's a fair question. I don't think that. And
Yeah.
actually, I have always a lot of times sales or maybe many times delivery would say, no, we should avoid these questions or we should try to give it a different spin. I told them, boss, I will give it a different spin, but I will not say that I have not failed.
Right.
And I will neither push it on my customer and say that because of the customer's reasons I failed.
Right.
What I will give a spin is what was my learning from that failure.
Yes. I think that is
What I
that is
learned,
one of the objectives from that question. Yes.
what was my learning from the failure? What steps did I take to see that I didn't, and what data do I have to prove that after that I have not failed in any such way. Rather, I have improved over it. That is a different approach. When you are looking for a relationship, which is the basic tenet of which is trust, there the basic your core lever is your honesty.
Yes.
You cannot be dishonest and build trust and expect a relationship.
Right. And these are long-term games. Yes.
It's a long term game.
Yeah. But I wanted to specifically touch on the fact that you are also into AI and
Mhm.
you are also a Gen AI enthusiast. So let's hear it from you. What all things do you do in relationship with AI? And then we'll get into more details.
It's not that I have, because I had a technology background or technical background. I have always been driven by the futuristic things. Okay, and to me, AI, even before the concept of generative AI or machine learning or deep learning or whatever we have, the traditional AI what we have, uh, that also was to some extent. I was not an expert into it, but I was reading about it, I was researching about it, or what trends, which are where they are going, what people are trying. Because that time the AI mostly was either in the life sciences or in the robotic space and all these areas. In typically around, I will say 2016, 17, and when AI was embedded within a device or embedded within an application. Still, we were seeing some areas of AI where it was not that domain specific. Okay,
Right.
like if we talk about this Amazon Echo or Siri, now embedded AI, and this was not specific to a domain. Rather, okay, it was speech intelligence. So when you start seeing the AI in those areas, then you start thinking like, oh, if this can be done in this way, why can't AI do with AI to do this part of it also?
Right.
So that sort of my curiosity or inquisitiveness of AI was always there, and I was always involved in seeing which are the other areas where AI is actually working. Typically, if you see, people thought of AI as a replacement of human.
Right.
Okay.
Which is not
But
correct.
actually, it's not
Right.
absolutely not correct. When you had Siri or when you had Alexa, it was not replacing my teacher or my guide or my maid or anyone else. It was
Right.
enhancing the quality of my life, giving me information for which I could have gone and may would have gone to Google or search or something. So I was looking it as augmentation of my quality of life. And that's exactly also somewhere after 2016, after coming. I had an opportunity of working as a technology evangelist in a consulting engagement for Xerox Park, the Palo Alto Research Center. And they were building something which was AI based, okay, and it was related to an enterprise content search and AI with AI, because before that, typically the search was mostly syntactical, like basically you are keyword based searching, you give it a keyword pattern based searching, which we call.
Right.
But they were working on something which were more semantic based. That
Right.
means, what do I actually mean rather than what am I actually typing?
Right.
Okay. And finding out that one. And for 2 years, I had a good opportunity of working as a technology evangelist with Xerox Park. I was the only person here in India. Rest all the entire design and engineering team was based out of Palo Alto in California, and the development team was based out of Ukraine. Okay, absolutely great people who were really thinking,
Right.
and people who were imagining the art of possible. They were rolling their sleeves and getting to sit and build. If they failed, if they made
Right.
30, they failed in 25.
Right.
But those five things which they came out were game changers.
Yeah.
Even before this chat GPT, other things like all the others followed. Again, Google DeepMind, a AI model called BERT.
Okay.
Okay, which
Yes.
was basically for this semantic search. Okay. And so when ChatGPT came, it was not a surprise. It was because we were knowing that, because and Xerox is the mecca of technology.
Right.
Okay. Anything and everything what you see, it will have some connection with Xerox. Whether it is a mouse, whether it's the Ethernet, whether it is anything, product is known by its brand name. Okay. You go and say, okay, get me a Xerox of it. You don't go and
Right.
say, get me a photocopy of it. Okay.
Right.
And working with those people and working in that culture
Mhm.
was something like a something one of the dreams come true for me. Okay, and the most important, more than working, the learning.
Right.
What I was looking at it was the use cases. How
Right.
can I apply it within my domain, within my function? And actually, 2023 APMP India was the first globally to launch a program on generative AI in pursuit management.
Right.
We were actually showing people how it is happening,
Yeah.
and how what is the art of possibility. Example which I gave you, and in RFP you do not talk about your problem. You only state your the solution, the hypothesis based on which you want a solution.
Yeah.
Today we can take a RFP and tell you the 5 key KRAs or the KPIs which you are having, which you want to address with that solution. Because
Right.
now we can do a deconstruction of the RFP. We can create 5, 10 different scenarios of the RFP.
Yes.
We can do in one of our we have this annual event called Samagam, where
Yes.
we have, and you are actually a part of that, right?
Right. Yes.
Last year in Samagam, we had the CIO of Tata Vistara as a
Mhm.
keynote speaker.
Right.
And obviously, the CIO, as a CIO, he's doing, and for Tata Vistara, he's doing procurement at in at that level. I said, sir, I will show you something, and you will have to tell me whether AI passed or AI failed.
Right.
What I did was, I only took his LinkedIn profile as a PDF file, and I did a buyer persona analysis based on that LinkedIn profile.
Wow.
And it gave that if he is the buyer, these are the key things which he will be looking for. This is how he will differentiate one RFP, one proposal from the other proposal. And I showed it in live in front of him, and I asked him, do you agree, or how many marks will you give it? And he said 10 out of 10.
Wow. This is interesting. And have a profile for each buyer then. This is
Yes,
very
every
interesting.
stakeholder. There is something called a buyer behavior. You are basically looking for patterns, and from
Yeah.
that patterns you are there. And what is this AI, generative AI, good at? It is
Right.
looking
Yes.
at
The same
patterns.
pattern. Yeah.
So instead of AI asking AI to write an answer, ask the AI to find the patterns
Right. Yes.
and analyze the patterns, give the
Right.
predictions on those patterns, and then you decide.
Yeah. And on the same thought, we covered one. What are the other things that you see for?
And today we have moved out of AI. 3 decades ago, there was no role call a tester or a QC person in the industry, in the IT industry. When I started programming or coding, I was responsible for the entire thing or the entire program I wrote. But as the complexity grew, as the more number of integration, more roles were created.
Right.
It is the same pattern which is going to follow over here. Only thing is that new roles will come out.
Yes.
This testers, nobody teaches testing in colleges.
Mm-hmm.
So where did these testers come from?
Right.
So that shift will happen.
Yeah.
New businesses will come. New things will happen. And today morning itself, we were having a discussion that whatever AI is doing, the engine or the core fuel of AI is the data.
Right.
And unfortunately, the data is always in a mess.
Right. Yes. Yes.
It goes across the industries.
Right.
And who will get the data right? Again, you will need people for doing
Yeah.
that.
And the the way things have happened is also like that only. We had big data before AI, but again, still,
I am saying is that these are waves. You'll have these chasms, you'll have this wave. Now, whether you're riding the wave or you're going down the
yeah,
wave, that is on you.
right. Individually, you can gain or you can lose, but overall, there would be always win.
So this
Yes.
wave will always be there. So that's the reason when from 2023 itself we have trained over 1500 plus people, professionals in generative AI and other things, building capabilities
Right.
in agent AI agent, because agent AI agents are again getting much more powerful, because when you write a prompt or you are interacting with a chat GPT, you are giving it a question and you are expecting an answer from it. When it comes to an agent thinking on its own, planning, asking you for specific knowledge, and there's a level of autonomy. The
Right.
control is still with you. It can still think for itself,
And
plan
it is
by itself,
learning.
reason by itself, learn,
Yeah.
execute tools, do things, all those things. Here it was just an interaction. Here it is an action.
Right.
And now when you create a swarm of agents,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you have heard of this new phenomenon called malt bot and malt book
Yes.
is
Yes. Small
happening.
book.
Claude bot, and then they had to rename it because of Anthropic. They built it Claude bot. From
Right.
Claude bot, they made it malt bot, and then this malt book. Look at it. If you stand there and say, okay, come, I'll do anything, then it will come and hit you.
Right.
But if you are ready with your surfboard, you will ride over it.
Right. Right. Yes.
You will enjoy the ride.
Right.
Yeah, agent doesn't know what actions you need to take. That domain, that knowledge, that skill, that capability lies with my community, my professionals. See, generally people think is that AI agent, these are all technical. No, no solution is actually a technology. Solution is for a business problem.
Right.
Technology is only the enabler there.
Right. Yes.
Actually, there will be a time when AI will ask you, do you think this is necessary?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Why do you have to ask? This vendor has quoted for 5 proposals in last 1 year. Why do you have to again go and ask him where is his office? Where is his head office?
Right.
Or what
Yeah.
has been his financial
Standings.
reports?
Yes.
I already have it, right?
Right.
Know that within procurement, AI is doing a lot of things.
Right.
The preliminary shortlisting
Yeah.
and compliance checks,
Right.
administrative acts, they are doing. Tomorrow they will be able to read a question and tell you, okay, what is the authenticity of it, whether it has been picked up from any other site or not, whether it is the
Yeah.
whether it has been picked up from somebody else's proposal or not. Very easily I will take that.
Yeah. The future is exciting with AI and everything. But I wanted to get back to procurement and bid management team. I think We could have gone more with AI, but I think we'll have to stop somewhere.
Yeah, sure.
So I wanted to talk about how can we make this thing better for both bid management and procurement teams.
Basic human principles. Be transparent.
Right,
Think for what is in the interest of the vendor to serve you,
right,
to be at your service. I believe that now that I have an intent to buy, the vendor is supposed to be at my call.
right, right.
Okay.
It becomes a power game. Yes,
It becomes a power game. But then vendor also says, okay, today's your day.
right, yes. Yeah,
I have seen vendors taking customers for rides.
yeah. And that comes in the delivery stage.
Many at different
Yeah,
stages.
yeah,
So if you do something wrong today, I'm not going to forget it.
right, yes,
I only will wait for another opportunity.
right. And
So
everybody
I
gets,
think, and everybody gets that. Everyone has his day,
right, yes.
including a dog.
Yeah,
Both the the sales, and today that's the reason why we are saying that there is no difference between a bid manager, proposal manager, sales manager. Everybody is actually, there are only two: one who is creating the value, another who is capturing the value.
right. And the one who is capturing the value is also creating the value for his company.
Yeah, for his company.
Right,
So you have to look at it from that perspective. So you have to move from that transaction to relationship.
yes,
Second thing is that instead of asking what value is he creating for me, I should also ask like what value am I creating?
right.
I think both the sides, if they do this, it will be good for everyone.
Everyone. Yes. I think that's a great note. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
No, I think you covered everything mostly, and I think we are in exciting times to bring in that level of adaptability, agility, and look beyond transactions.
Right, yes.
Look at it from a responsibility perspective
A
also.
lot of
Like,
good topics there, Vijay.
good,
To
thank you.
start with, that you said that once you reach 50, you should start something of your own. I think that was a great
Not
point.
somewhere you should live your life.
Yes. The relationship part, that we carry the relationship forward and not the transaction. That's another good thought. I think the relationship management between bid management, procurement, sales, everybody, we are all here to create value and, pass it on. The AI part that you said, very nice. I think this podcast, again, I keep saying this, that this is a mean for everybody to start the thinking process. You know, not everything that we say might be correct or whatever, but
No.
this should get people to get interested in things. They should start researching on the net. They can contact you and all that. Before we end, do you want to give your contact information or something? I would
Yeah,
put it
sure,
in the
sure.
in the comment.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the best thing to do, LinkedIn. If you want to connect me on a call or a WhatsApp, better send me a message and then connect, because I will tell you that okay, I am available or not. If I can
Right,
create value for anyone else, that would be value for me.
right. So thank you again for your time. A lot of good learning for me. I hope this
It's a
helps a lot
pleasure.
of
It's a
people.
pleasure.
To everyone who is listening, thank you for listening. Have a nice day. I would
If you like this video, please like and subscribe to the channel.